Good evening. India's Forest Conservation Act is being amended. Should you care? Well, if you care about forests, the air you breathe, future generations, then as citizens, we need to engage with these proposed amendments. In fact, they are open for public feedback till the 1st of November. Before I jump into what the proposed amendments contain, you should know a little bit about how they were put in public domain. It's not all kosher, which is why this video. The proposed amendments were put on the Environment, Forest and Climate Change website on the 4th of October. They were in English only. People could give feedback for 15 days from 2nd of October, that's the date on the paper. Now, the proposed amendments are online only, at least till now. This obviously cuts off most of India. It cuts off the Adivasis, who are bigger stakeholders in this conversation than a digital English-speaking audience. In fact, our pre-legislative consultation policy says 30 days should be given and that these amendments should be available in many languages. So obviously people made a lot of noise and the deadline for feedback was shifted to the 1st of November. There was also a small error with the email ID the government released to which feedback could be sent. Now remember, it is the correct ID on your screen, so send your feedback to this ID. The government put an incorrect ID, then a correction order with a new email address was released. The difference was just a dot and a dash. So make what you will of the chain of events. This video is important for you as a citizen, as a young adult, about changes being made or proposed when it comes to our forest conservation.
Let's start. What's the goal of the FCA? Its goal is to check deforestation. All activities that are ancillary to conservation, such as the building of checkposts or construction of fences, are allowed on forest land. For everything else, a clearance from the centre is mandatory. Now, the proposed amendments to the FCA seek to make it a little easier for forest land to be used for non-forestry purposes, either without permission from the government or just easier ways to get that permission, and also without providing compensatory levies as they have to currently. The first big proposed amendment is railways and road ministries be exempted from needing a clearance for infra projects on land they acquired before 1980. It doesn't matter if such land has been declared a protected forest since then, or that acquisition of these lands may include unresolved land rights. The second, right now the FCA says that private individuals cannot use land they own if it is categorized as a forest for non-forestry purposes. The amendments suggest that individuals can construct structures for bona fide purposes, including residential units on up to 250 square meters of forest land as a one-time relaxation. So what does this mean for, let's say, the Aravalli Hills? The third, defense projects close to international borders will be exempted from forest clearance. State governments can grant forest clearance for strategic and security projects of national importance, which is as subjective as it sounds. The fourth, a proposal to allow for the extraction of oil and natural gas from forest land as long as technologies such as extended reach drilling are used, which is as long as the holes are drilled right outside the forest. The government says that this is an environmental friendly way to do it, but last year the Guwahati High Court stayed the environmental clearance given to Oil India Limited to explore crude oil under the Dibru-Saikhowa National Park using ERD in the absence of any assessment of impacts on biodiversity. Also, remember, gas well number 5 at Bagjan was also just right outside, just 300 meters, the boundary of the buffer forest of the Dibru-Saikhowa National Park. The fifth big amendment. It proposes that plantations on forest land be exempted so they don't need clearance. Currently, plantations require clearances because they often replace large swathes of forest land and actually harm biodiversity. But not all proposed changes are controversial or concerning. Some are being lauded, like keeping certain pristine forests intact for a specific period and making offences in such forests non-bailable, so the FCA becomes more prohibitory than regulatory. But the concerning bits do outweigh the pros, activists and policy experts say.
Now, the main argument of those who are against these amendments is that it changes the definition of what counts as a forest. Well, which as of now comes from a landmark 1996 ruling of the Supreme Court, and it says that a forest is, number one, anything demarcated as a forest in government records. Now, this is irrespective of ownership, irrespective of classification, so it can also be on private land. Number two, all areas that conform to the dictionary meaning of a forest. What do I mean when I say that? So think of untouched land where vegetation naturally comes up. And number three, all areas that have been identified as a forest by an expert committee. Now, non-forestry activities or non-forest related activities are not allowed on these kinds of lands. What are the activists saying? Well, they are arguing that these amendments change the definition of what a forest is and what is allowed on it. And it therefore goes against the main goal of this legislation, that is to check deforestation. There is another very strong criticism, and that is related to tribal communities. Now remember, these communities fought long and hard to assert their right to use and conserve the forest, as they have been doing for centuries, without clearances, without the government's approval, and without the government's involvement. This, in fact, led to what is considered a landmark Forest Right Act of 2006, which recognizes the rights of the forest-dwelling tribal communities. It also empowers the Gram Sabhas to make decisions about allocating forest land for development purposes. Now, activists say that these proposed changes in the FCA actually reverse this entire process. Why? Because it treats an Adivasi who wants to build something on forest land the same as an industrialist who wants to build something. But the process is only getting easier for the latter. It also disempowers Gram Sabhas. And it must be reiterated once again in this video that 2 weeks into the feedback process, the English digital only proposed amendments remain completely inaccessible to these communities. So they're actually not involved in a decision-making process that affects them the most. Now, obviously, the center reads all of this very, very differently. Their first big argument is that India wants to get to a 33% forest cover. We are currently at under 25%. This is obviously unlikely to happen via growing a full forest in a sense, right? So they say more non-forest lands needs to be brought under tree cover to achieve this target. The center believes the steps are in this direction. For instance, they say the proposed amendment of diversion of private forested lands for plantations is a step in this direction. Now, the critics say plantations are always not good news. Now, what is to stop people from trading their lands to corporations who will set up, let's say, palm oil plantations, and then we will face a biodiversity crisis like Indonesia faced. I'll stop here for now. It is not clear yet as to how the government is going to process and use this public feedback in making the legislation. But many organizations are working on it. I'm going to link some names in the description as well. If this has been worthy of your time, do share this video with your friends and family, and do consider contributing to Newsworthy. The link to make that contribution is in the bio or in the description if you're watching this on YouTube. From our entire team here, who's spent a lot of time putting this video, reading those amendments very, very carefully, thank you so much for your time.